Hello, fantasy readers. So, today we're going to be talking about how we can actually use some nonfiction research to better understand our fantasy stories. And many fantasy authors, fantasy screenwriters, fantasy directors, they will make sure that every detail of their story is realistic in many ways, right? Jane Yolen, who's a very famous fantasy author, she is known to research every single type of flower that might grow on a certain cliff that she wants to get right in her stories, right? So when fantasy authors write, they want their settings in many ways to appear believable. And so as readers, we can use nonfiction information to actually better understand our fantasy stories in many ways. So today we're going to be reading a story, Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. And this story is an African folktale that is set in Great Zimbabwe, right? And many of you, I'm sure, like myself, don't know that much about Great Zimbabwe, right? So it's very helpful that even though this is a folk tale, it's very helpful for us to get a little bit of research before we even start reading the book. So when I looked up Great Zimbabwe, this is what popped up. Great Zimbabwe's most enduring and impressive remains are its stone walls. These walls were constructed from granite blocks gathered from the exposed rock of the surrounding hills. Since this rock naturally splits into even slabs and can be broken into portable sizes, it provided a convenient and readily available building resource. All of Great Zimbabwe's walls were fitted without the use of mortar by laying stones one on top of the other, each layer slightly more recessed than the last to produce a stabilizing inward slope, right? So, and then this was a picture that I found of the remains of Great Zimbabwe, right? So it definitely seems like a very complex civilization to be having this type of complex structure, right? And as we read Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, I want us to think about that these were the types of people who lived there, people that were capable of making really sophisticated buildings, right? They're very intelligent people. So today you're actually going to be listening to a Reading Rainbow episode from 1989 when Mrs. Burke was 5 years old. Now, this video is going to seem a bit dated because it is. It's from 1989, but it's also really chocked full of really awesome nonfiction information as well about African culture. So the first 10 minutes of this Reading Rainbow are of the book, and then the remaining minutes, you're going to see a lot of information, information about different African instruments that are played, African dance. So it's a really informative video that'll really enhance your understanding of the book. But your next job is going to be to listen to the book and then to watch the rest of the Reading Rainbow episode, and then come back into our session 11 Google Slides and think about how learning more about the city of Great Zimbabwe, learning more about the African instruments that you're going to be learning about in the Reading Rainbow, and the African dance. How do you think you understand the story better, right? How did learning about all of this nonfiction research help enhance your understanding of Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters? And then you're going to go and do a little bit of nonfiction research from your own book club book. Now, you might find a character or a symbol or a theme or an idea that you think you want to do a little more research on. Okay. And try to find anything that you think you might be able to research, and research a little bit more about that, and type here what you find, and be prepared to discuss with your book club what you find tomorrow. Okay. So readers, using nonfiction information helps us better understand our fantasy stories, right? And by taking just something that we think we could dive a little deeper in, we're going to get to know our stories that much better. Okay.